Hi, my name is Sherry Sjogren, and I am here to read the prologue, pages 5 through 9 of March Book One by John Lewis, Andrew Aden, and Nate Powell. And as I read, I'm going to point out various aspects to pay attention to as one would read a graphic novel. So, we're looking right now at the cover page to the graphic novel as it can be found on hoopladigital.com, brought to us by Seattle Public Libraries. And there is a feature that allows you to zoom in a magnifying glass on various details, and details like this are going to be very important for reading and understanding a graphic novel. The dedication says to the past and future children of the movement, and the movement implies the civil rights movement, past and future and present. So on the first page, this is foreshadowing. And if we click on the image, it zooms in. This looks like it might be a bridge with water flowing beneath, and that is in fact the case. We cannot tell what is being said right there, at least not with certainty. It looks like it might be saying, "Can you swim?" And the author has drawn it that way on purpose, to be purposefully vague in order to echo what it would sound like in real life when you don't always hear exactly what someone said, but you can kind of make it out. And then it goes on to say, "John?" So let's see what happens next. So the next page, if we look at it in full, we see, we can't see the whole page. Okay, so we see the next panel, the top of the next page, and in fact it was a bridge. Here was the lines at the bottom, here were the railings, and below is the river. And there's a whole line of people marching up it, all on the sidewalk, all packed close together. It's the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and it is in fact, "Can you swim?" So now we can hear in real life the question being phrased again. And the response, "No," coming from two of the people in that long line, or one of the two people. And another person, both of them looking pretty worried, says, "Well, neither can I, but we might have to," he continues. And we know he continues because of this line coming from the previous panel. And we can see a zoom out of the entire line of people all on the bridge. So the foreshadowing is suggesting that there is a danger ahead, worse than jumping into a moving river and swimming when you don't know how to swim. We might have to. And then the next panel that we see is some official-looking people in uniforms with all kinds of safety equipment. Here, this looks like some kind of tool. This looks like a uniformed leg. Here's a helmet. Here's a megaphone. This appears to be a gas mask. It's attached to his face. And this appears to be a double-barreled shotgun, possibly, opened up so that it could be reloaded. And we zoom out to the whole screen with the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And we see the marchers coming down the bridge. They've made progress at this point, and there is no opening for them on the other side. They're surrounded by cars and people. And again, the authors have used this technique of not making the writing particularly easy to read. We might be able to kind of guess what they're saying, but in this case, maybe it doesn't really matter exactly what they're saying. There's something about, like, everybody ready and something up. They are getting ready to do something. And if we look, we see some pointy things. Those look like guns, possibly with knives attached to the ends of them. That looks like a megaphone. But we're just meant to get a general impression at this point. And then it scrolls in. This looks kind of like some kind of a gas canister. Here's more gas mask. There's some kind of baton or something, and they are very well equipped with personal protective gear. And still more from the same people on that far side of the bridge. There is a dog, two dogs pictured, and dogs we sometimes think of as friendly and happy animals that like us, and sometimes they are dangerous, scary animals that have been trained against us. And we can tell by the stylized teeth on this dog that look jagged like in the movie Jaws or something, that this is meant to be a scary dog, regardless of how you normally feel about dogs. And the people on that side of the bridge, they speak. And you know that this is unfriendly, jagged, grating speech because of those jagged lines around the speech. And it says, "This is an unlawful assembly." And you see the sound coming out from the megaphone in those lines. Continuing that unfriendly speech, "Your march is not conducive to the public safety. You are ordered to disperse and go back to your church or to your homes." And it's an angry looking face pointing at the people who are continuing their march. And if we were to summarize what he's saying in 1, 2, or 3 words, it might be leave, or go away, or maybe in 4 words, get out of here. So they use a lot of words and sort of fancier words on purpose. And that purpose might be to increase their authority or make them seem more in charge and more powerful in the moment. And we can tell, coming from the people marching across the bridge, may we have a word with the major. Now, majors are leaders of certain kinds of groups, maybe army, maybe police. The answer is, again, in that unfriendly way, there is no word to be had. In short, no. And repeat, may we have a word with interruption. There is no word to be had. You had 2 minutes to turn around and go back to your church. And here's a close-up of all the people on the bridge. And here we might notice that it is a diverse makeup, including men, women, black, white, young, and old. Whereas on the other side, the people who are there to greet them, if you will, they all appear to be young white men. And these people are looking rather worried. One of them says, "We should kneel and pray, Hosea." And the best I can imagine, there are 2 main reasons to kneel and pray. One would be because you believe in God and you want God to help you. The other would be that the act of kneeling down on the ground with your head down and your hands together is a non-threatening thing. You're not able to quickly jump up and attack someone from that position. It is a very humble and non-threatening position to be in that communicates a very clear message of peace. And so here we see them starting to kneel down, but not everyone. There's a little bit of chaos, and we can see that chaos in the not being able to read the words exactly, but something like, "All right, let's kneel and pray," and who knows what else is being said. Meanwhile, on the other side of the bridge, "Troopers, advance!" And here we see from the backside the troopers advancing. So state troopers, this is a branch of the police. They've got their guns with the pointy ends. There's a baton raised above the head ready to start maybe hitting. And content warning, you are going to be seeing depictions of violence. They are real. They're in the past by several decades. And the story does end with the people who experience the violence overcoming and being able to make some positive changes. So it's violence with a moral to the story. Here we see the violence starting to occur. These words are called onomatopoeia. They are spelled to sound exactly like they would sound in real life. So the sound of whap is actually whap. The sound of thump is thump. And the sound that a baton would make hitting something hard would be crack, just as it's written. Onomatopoeia. So here he is kneeling on the ground, his back up, and he's turned to look, and he is getting whapped on the back. And you can see a close-up of their faces. He looks worried. He looks like he's struggling to breathe or coughing, and he's yelling out, "Tear gas." Meanwhile, we see another group of people in the background. This group of people is not wearing uniforms. They are white race, and they appear to be a crowd that's gathered on the side saying terrible things that I will not repeat out loud. So if you know anything about tear gas, you know that it's considered a non-lethal weapon, meaning that it's not meant to kill people the way that guns are meant to kill people, but it is still sometimes a deadly weapon that does sometimes kill people. Here's the tear gas canister being thrown and rolled, and it makes the sounds tink to clink, and then it ignites and goes, or it opens up and goes psh. Again, that's automatopoeia, and we see the gas cloud coming out, and not just coming out around the whole panel, but actually it's expanding out of the panel to show just how invasive and everywhere it is. The guy with the helmet on, he's protected from the gas with this gas mask. He's breathing clean air, while these people who are bent over, were on their hands and knees praying, are hacking and coughing and struggling to get away. And the violence continues with crack, thud, and the sound of this guy saying, oof. You see here a dark and menacing looking shadow with a weapon raised above the head, poised as though it's about to strike. And from the perspective of the person who was marching across the bridge, we see these hands desperately grasping at the ground. The emotions we might associate with that kind of hand grabbing are fear, anxiety, desperation, clawing at trying to get away. And then we see essentially what a person might see when they see a blackout. Maybe they've been affected by the tear gas, maybe they've been affected by being hit on the head. Either way, they're experiencing an altered state of consciousness in which the world used to look like a bridge and a river and some crowds, and now it looks like black and white lines and otherwise nothing. So that is the end of the prologue, and there is a lot of foreshadowing in that prologue to talk about the things that John Lewis and his companions did in order to fight for civil rights. That is all for now.